Well, welcome. Good morning, guys. You're watching the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani, and I am excited because I have one of our fellow practitioners, Roderick, with us here today. He's a powerhouse, and he's going to deliver some incredible information. We're talking about the effects of infidelity on one's mental health. We did part one on yesterday with my wife and myself, and today we're going to have this conversation and take it a little bit deeper. I think we did a lot to peel back some of the layers of what people struggle with, and we want to do a deeper dive today. But before we get started, make sure you take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Let the community know that we are live this morning. And if you haven't done so, download the Couples Academy app, because that allows you to connect with us and know what is going on. Last Chance Weekend is coming up. That's right. It's coming up February the 10th through, oh, that's wrong. My bad. I'm sorry. I put the wrong one up there, but it's coming up February the 10th through the 12th. So if you have not registered, it's not too late. There it is. Boom. It's filling up, and we're excited about that. People driving in, flying in from all over the world to really make a significant impact on their marriage. There are people who are hopeless. There are people who are in crisis. There are people who don't know what to do, and they're looking for an answer. They're looking for a solution. They're looking for a breakthrough. And so if that's you, we want you to reach out to us, set up a discovery call so that we can guide you through a process. All right, we're gonna step in. Good morning, Roderick. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Hassani. I'm great.
Awesome. Listen, we're going to tackle this topic here this morning. We were discussing some interesting things that I wasn't even aware of that happens when infidelity occurs in a marriage, and I'm excited to get to. But as a continuation, we just want to continue with where we started yesterday. We're talking about the impact that it has on the betrayed spouse's mental health. One of the things I want to talk about, and we can talk about this together, is there, and you've heard us talk about it in a particular context, but there are internal conversations that we typically all have. So as we're communicating outwardly with someone else, there are those internal conversations. But when we're not in a conversation, while we're at work, all throughout the day, while we're on drive time, coming back and forth from work, while we're cooking in the kitchen for the family, while we're in the gym, while we're beginning to fall asleep, our mind is constantly racing. And there are these internal conversations that we have where literally we're in question about what happened. Sometimes we review our entire lives because we've been so blown away by the reality of what's happened. We begin to question everything. And oftentimes, even when a couple has had their discovery, when a couple has gone through full disclosure and they've had thousands of conversations, sometimes months later, years later, they're still in their head thinking about what has happened. They become preoccupied, and there's no sense of peace of mind that they have, Roderick.
Yeah, Sonny, that's what's, we've all heard the term, how powerful the mind is. And when infidelity occurs, the mind becomes definitely its own workshop, because it's wondering this and it's wondering that. It's creating a vision in itself based on either the truth or based on things that the betrayed spouse feels like is the truth. And that's where the danger comes, because that becomes your reality day in and day out. And it makes it tough for a person to shake it if they don't seek the right assistance and the right help.
That's a fact. And think about the preoccupation that takes place in a person's mind when they have so many duties and responsibilities in their day, on their work, with their family, but they can't seem to focus. And so they're living in the shadow of their own existence, still playing out scenarios. Their imagination begins to run wild. They're asking questions because pieces of the puzzle have yet to be discovered. And so they're on a quest for knowledge, for truth, to find the answer. And it just sends them in a spiral. It's like they're chasing the wind and they just don't seem settled. But then there's also the questioning of three things in particular. They question their spouse. Like, yes. Do I even know you, right? Because I can't believe that this could have happened. This is not the person who I thought I said I do to. This is not the person that I fell in love with. This is not the person that I've shared my life with all these years. And then boom, such and such happens. Let's talk about that, Roderick, like the whole questioning of the spouse, him or herself.
Yeah, I mean, as far as in a marriage, you think your spouse, regardless of how long you've been married, whether you're newlywed, because hopefully there was a courting portion before you got married. There was a get to know one another before you got married. So we all develop this knowledge or this vision or this perception of our spouse. And then when something like infidelity happens, that that messes with our brain. That derails us, because the person that we thought we knew, we realize, I don't know this person. Who am I living with? Who have I been living with
Yeah.
for this number of times? And it begins to wear on them. It begins to cause other questions like, you know, do I really want to know this person at this point? Is it worth it? How can I not know or not seen the signs?
Yeah. And to your point, like, do I even want to know this person? That really transitions them into the next question. Do I even want this relationship? Like, it's interesting. We get married and we get into commitment because we have an idea of what a relationship is, what faithfulness is, commitment is, marriage is. And a lot of times that thought or concept that we have is shattered when we suffer a blow like this, and we begin to reevaluate the entire relationship. And we ask ourselves, man, was he or she doing such and such when? Or was that truly authentic? Did they really care? Did they or was this a cover? So you begin to literally go back into the past and reevaluate and reinterpret the entire thing, which puts a cloud of doubt and confusion over your mind. And then there's the questioning of yourself, Roderick. Like, I can't even believe, I thought I was smarter than this, sharper than this. I thought I had wisdom. I thought God spoke to me. I'm giving everybody else this advice, but how could this have happened to me? So you begin to doubt your own self. This is the stuff that people deal with.
Hassan, that's a good point you bring up, especially for that individual that feel like they are aware, or they have a good sense of character, or they have a good sense of judgment about people. And that really plays even more so if they had a background of growing up in infidelity. Maybe they experienced it with their parents. So they feel like, number one, that's not going to happen to me. Number two, I understand, I've lived through it, so I understand and can recognize the signs and the evidence, so I know how to prevent it. So then when it happens, the first thing they do is that feel of self-esteem is hit hard, because they're wondering, why didn't I see the signs? I know what the signs are. I swore to myself this would not happen to me, and then it does. So self-doubt kicks in, low self-esteem kicks in. Now they get into a depressed feeling, and it's hard to shake at that point.
You bring up a good point. When we do full disclosure with couples and they, dive into the why, usually one of the contributing factors is the fact that I grew up in a household where I saw it. It was prevalent. It was, it lasted for several years. And either A, I saw it right in front of me, or B, I didn't really see it, but I heard about it. People would talk about it, but it really leaves an impact on your children. And we think we're hiding. We think we're getting away with it. We think that what we do behind closed doors is nobody else's business but our own, and it has no effect on anybody else. I'm not hurting anybody. This is what I choose to do. But there is an impact. There really is. And so for those of you who are currently, because some of you who watch, we know you're currently in an affair and you're looking for a reason why you should get out of it. See, if you just think about yourself, then it'll keep you trapped in your behavior. But when you think about what the impact of your behavior is not just doing to your spouse, but to your children and your children's children, because the legacy is being left. Listen, that should motivate you enough to shut it down, to turn course, to repent, and to begin life anew. And it's critically important that we do that. We want to create a different narrative and a different story for our children. I want to go to Lindsay right quick. Lindsay says, I wake up with internal conversations some days. It takes being intentional to shake off and turn my eyes to Jesus and what he wants me to focus and think upon. Sis, I think many people can relate to what it is that you're going through, but you know what? It's what you're saying is important. When you turn your eyes to Christ, that's where the solution is. You know, the Bible says that we should cast down every evil imagination or thing that would attempt to exalt itself above the word of God. So whatsoever is pure and whatsoever is good and whatsoever is righteous, think on these things. What a principle that if we shift our thoughts in the right direction and think on those particular things, it helps us to begin to manage our thoughts and our emotions.
Hassani, you know what I like about that question or the answer that she gave herself is the fact that she realized a decision had to be made. Even though she woke up or she wakes up with those thoughts running through her head, she makes a decision that, hey, I cannot stay here. I cannot live here in my thoughts because they're not good for me. Despite of what the situation is and what caused the thoughts, her decision to find and seek a higher power for answers and for comfort, that's the battle right there, making the decision not to be a victim.
Absolutely, man. I mean, the comments are blown up. I need to go to this. Vin Sean says, wow. And this is where I am. And it's tough when you can't give a good enough answer to help with the situation. And we both not to minimize, I guess, our suffering. This is one of the questions, why? But why? But why? You remember, if you had children when they were very young, like every day, they're always asking you, well, why, Dad? And why? But tell me, why? And it's just like, would you leave me alone, right? But that is one of the prevailing questions that constantly comes up by the betrayed spouse, because either A, one does not know the why. They haven't dug deep enough to know the why. Maybe they know on a surface level, but not comprehensively. Or whatever the truth is, it just doesn't resonate and it's not good enough for the spouse. So now you're in this stuck place. I'm sure you've dealt with that working with your clients. How have you kind of navigated through that and help couples kind of bridge that gap?
Hassani, that is a great spot where a couple can get stuck. The betrayer or the betrayed spouse needing to know the why. Why did you do this to me? Or why did you make that choice or decision? And the betrayer, like you said, number one, either doesn't know the why, haven't dug deep enough, haven't gotten help to uncover the root or the core of the why, or they give a why and the betrayed spouse is like, that can't be it. It's got to be more. It's got to be deeper. It's got to be more complex. So the truth is there, but they can't in their mind accept that truth, because the flip side of that is, if it was that simple and I meant that little to you for you to that to be your why, then now again it goes back to that self-esteem, that why was I not good enough? Why did I not see that?
You know, Roderick, I did a session some time ago with a gentleman who we were going through full disclosure. And I'm listening to his answers as she's asking him. And I'm listening to these answers and I'm like, this dude has been through counseling before, because nobody would ever be able to connect those dots. Like the verbiage he was using, how he was breaking things down. I'm like, have you been to therapy? He was just like, yeah, man, for about a year or two. And I said, I could tell because there's such a comprehensive understanding that he had, and he was able to articulate things that the average person couldn't. And so that, I just want to reinforce, if you're struggling with knowing what the why is, you need to get with somebody who can help unpack it. And so the reality is, are you choosing to be transparent? Are you choosing to be fearless? Are you choosing to be open and honest in your dialogue? If not, that's why your spouse may struggle with the why. But at the end of the day, if you are, and you've done all that you can do, that's when you have to realize that your wisdom has gotten you as far as you can go. You have to connect with somebody else who can go deeper, who can help pull it out, because once it comes out, remember, it's not an excuse, but there's a reason why. And if we can get to the reason, now we can properly guide you through a process. Because if we falsely diagnose the problem, and if we make it about something other than what it is and medicate that thing or prescribe things for that thing, doesn't solve the problem, and it happens again, then we assume counseling doesn't work, or someone doesn't care about, changing and transforming their life, and that may not be it. Have you ever gone to the doctor and the doctor mistakenly diagnosed you with something that you actually didn't have? And so this is why it's good to get a second opinion, and Couples Academy could be that second opinion for you. Roderick, I want to go to this comment. Okay. There's actually a couple. Where is it? I think this was it. Sherry says, why do men always tell about the past happened years ago? I don't quite understand the question. If you could reword the question. I think this was it. Monique says, yes. And how does the betrayed then talk to the children about what happened? I want you to jump into that. I have some thoughts, but I want you to lead the way with that question. How do you talk to your children when an affair has occurred?
I think it depends on the age of the children. I think it depends on if they are adult children or young children that's still in the home. Are they aware of it? Have they been exposed to it? That's going to dictate the conversation and approach. If they're real young children, my advice would be to not have a conversation with them. But if they are, teenager and above, then sit down and be honest with them. Be open with it, and invite them to ask questions to help them understand, and explain to them that what mommy and daddy and mommy are going through has nothing to do with Johnny and Jill. It's nothing that they caused, or it shouldn't affect them as a parent-child relationship. But I don't think you should hide it from them if they are proper age, and especially if they are adult children, you should have that conversation, because there is a such thing as a generational curse. And in order to break it, it must come to the surface and be talked about and discussed and met head on.
I agree 1000% with everything you just said. So please, depending upon the age of the children, depending upon how much they do know. But I also want to say, check your motive. What is your motive behind telling them? Is it to put your spouse on blast? Is it to reveal to your children how horrible and wayward their father or their mother has been? What is the motive? Because the question becomes, the information that you reveal, will it help or will it hurt, harm, and hinder? And there's many people who are involved in this process. And what happens is, when there's division or split between a mom and a dad, unfortunately, some children feel like they're forced to take sides, right? Or I've got to come to the defense of mom instead of dad, or dad instead of mom, because of the violation of what's happened. And that can create confusion in the child, and it can create a split loyalty within the child, and it just becomes a struggle. And when I say child, yes, I know I'm using the word child, but listen, there are some adult children who are impacted by betrayal that happens with their parents. They may be grown, living on their own with their own family, but then something like this happens. It's a devastating blow. So you really want to be mindful. And then the other thing is, it's important that the two of you as husband and wife are on the same page and have similar messaging. Because here's what happens. I'm going to have a private conversation with mom. I'll talk to mom, and then I'm going to have a conversation with dad. And then when the story doesn't line up, when there's, a huge disparity in terms of the perspective, and it's just I'm going to get intel over here, and then I'm going to get the tea over there. And then it just becomes a mess. And if you're still hurting and in pain, and a lot of those feelings come out in your conversation, you're transferring those negative emotions onto your children. So now they have a double pain. They're not only hurt as a child okay, by what the parents are going through, then they take on the hurt and pain of the betrayed spouse. So that's a double whammy. So this is why it's important to really be on the same page, have several conversations amongst the two of you before you have a conversation with the children. If you need proper help navigating through how to do it, what to say, all of that, just reach out to us and we'll be here to help you. But listen, guys, this is a good conversation. We're getting into it. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. And then Roderick is going to drop some bombs on you that you may not be ready for. Stay right there. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. I am joined by Roderick. He is a phenomenal Couples Academy certified practitioner. If you are in need of help, please, him and his wife, Sandra, do an amazing job, and they are available on the website and the app, so make sure you check them out. Roderick, there's a lot of questions here. I do want to get to them, so stay tuned. I see you. We're coming for you. But you shared something before we started the show that I was just like, what? What?
Yes, honey. I know we're talking about the mental aspect and effects of infidelity. And again, a great example of how powerful the mind is. There's several studies out there that talk about how men that are the betrayer in infidelity, there's an increased risk of heart attacks for men that participate in infidelity and that are the betrayer. So we're talking about something that's going on here that's triggering it everything from guilt to depression to stress over it, because you got to think about it. When you're in the midst of the infidelity, you're dealing with stress because you're hiding, you're keeping secrets, you can't tell anybody, you're constantly looking over your shoulder. There's guilt because despite what it may appear and despite our actions, the betrayer loves their spouse. I know many people say, how can you love me and do that to me? But the betrayer loved their spouse. So all that guilt, all that stress is wearing on something. You can't talk about it, so you internalizing it, which again, we all know that stress comes from thoughts and comes from external environments. So what's affected? Your heart.
That is such that is such a powerful revelation, because when you think about infidelity, it can cause a broken heart. Obviously, in the betrayed spouse, their heart is broken, but never thought about the breaking, if you will, that takes place in the actual unfaithful person. It literally physically can break his heart. And to your point, like that emotional stress. See, a lot of people think, okay, you were in your affair, you were living your best life, you had it all, everything you wanted, you had your cake and you got a chance to eat it too. You were just loving it. And the reality is, to your point, there's a tremendous amount of stress and uncertainty and struggle internally that a person has when they're in an affair.
Sonny?
This is deep, man. This is deep. And I just, wow. I appreciate you for sharing that. Well, listen, guys, we're experiencing a little technical difficulty. So what I want to do, Bobby, really quickly, go to a quick break, and we're going to fix this problem, come back and dive into the questions. Stay right there. You're watching a Couples Academy show. We'll be right back.
Couples Academy is committed to serving couples around the world by reaching beyond cultural lines and language barriers. We are proud to announce that we now serve the Spanish-speaking community. So whether you're here in the United States or abroad, Couples Academy has a place for you.
Couples Academy se compromete a servir parejas de todo el mundo, superando las fronteras culturales y las barreras del idioma. Ahora, estamos orgullosos de anunciar que servimos a la comunidad de habla hispana. Entonces, ya sea que estés aquí en los Estados Unidos o en el extranjero, Couples Academy está aquí para servirle.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
Hey guys, thanks for that. Sometimes things happen. We got to make provisions. So thanks for being with us. There's a lot of comments, Roderick, I want to get to. Man, this is a great conversation. Good morning. The mental ramifications are so bad. 11 months after D-Day, and my mental still sucks. After therapy of my own, I know I'll be okay. but my husband isn't consistent with our relationship, with the relationship work. And I'm tired. I'm tired of begging for affection and intimacy when he says he just doesn't think about sex or want to kiss, but he enjoyed it with the affair partner. That's where I am at. How do you respond to that, Roderick?
Sonny, that is, first off, that is a common feeling of comparison, especially if the betrayer is not showing up consistently, because the betrayer plays a very important role in the mental recovery of the betrayed spouse. If they show up consistently and they are committed to the recovery of the marriage, then things will change. If they don't show up or be inconsistent, then there will be inconsistency in the recovery of both parties. The other piece of that I want to talk about is she mentions 11 months. And Hassani, you have said it many times, Couples Academy has said it many times, you cannot put a time clock on how long or how short the recovery process will be. Number one, I think a lot of people, they using the benchmark being getting back to normal. And as we've said many, many times, normalcy is not what you want. You don't want the same thing that you had before the infidelity. You want something different and better.
Yes.
The other piece of that is, do not compare what the affair partner did or didn't do with the betrayed spouse. There is no comparison, and I mean that in a positive way. Yeah. He will show up consistently if you demand that. And when I say demand, I don't mean be forceful, but boundaries now have to be set. And if you set those boundaries, then you got to stand firm in the boundary that is set. And that is a part of the recovery and how he shows up and the work that he puts in. And because if you don't hold him accountable, then he will not be accountable.
You know, Roderick, you said something that I think we need to do an entire show on, and that's dealing with comparisons, because you're absolutely right. That's the very thing we shouldn't do, but it's the knee-jerk reaction that we engage in. And, we all tend to compare, and there are certain personalities that in general struggle with comparisons. Like, forget an affair. They just compare themselves to everyone. And usually they think less of themselves as they compare themselves to other people. And so that right there is worthy of a serious conversation that I think we need to go into. Listen, what I want to do is this. I know we're beyond 10 o'clock, and I know I see your eyes. I know you got other things and other clients to get to. What I want to do is I want to continue this conversation tomorrow. I'm going to start off with these comments. So for those of you who have left comments and questions, tune in tomorrow. We're going to start the episode with these comments and questions and continue in the conversation. Listen, you've been watching the Couples Academy show. We appreciate you for tuning in and spreading this word to your family and to your friends, because you become an advocate in somebody else's situation. So until then, see you in the morning for another great show. Take care.
Take care.